Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May meeting of the Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees. And to start off, we'll go around and introduce ourselves. And if you care to share a book that you're reading, please do so. So Fred, how about if we start with you?
Hi, I'm Fred Reisinger, and I'm reading a great book that I checked out just several days ago called Incredible Archaeology. It's a Smithsonian book, and the underlining title is Inspiring Places from Our Human Past. And it goes all around the world looking at various sites and locations where societies began, where societies flourished, and it's just really great. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and when I get home, I'll go back to it.
My name is Kari Essery, and I'm reading a book entitled The Personal Librarian. And it's about the librarian of J.P. Morgan. And I'm not going to tell you what's interesting about it because you just have to read it. Very good. Yes.
I just picked up a couple books that I'm going to start. Firekeeper's Daughter, which has been on my list for a long time, and Notes to Self, which I read a review of and sounded really interesting. I can't recommend it yet because I've only read the author's note, the preface. So.
I'm Greer Carson. I am currently reading The Age of AI and Our Human Future by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher. And at the risk of stepping too far out of the box in my very first meeting, I'm also going to share a video game that I'm playing called What Remains of Edith Finch, which is what we call sort of a narrative game or storytelling game in which the action is primarily solving puzzles, reading notes, interacting with other players, walking through and discovering hidden items. And this game is about a young woman discovering her family's past and how it teaches her a little bit about who she is, both good and bad. So it's, I think it's cross-platform. I've played it on PS4 and PS5, but I think you can get it for Xbox and Switch and PC. Yeah.
I'm Chris Harrison, and full disclosure, honestly, it's the end of the year at school, and so the only thing I read at night is the back of my eyelids. So I'm hoping to find a new book to read and start reading once school's over.
I'm David Ferguson. I'm reading Trouble at the Brownstone, which is another extension of the Nero Wolfe series. Someone has picked it up and just keeps writing more books, and it's fun because every couple months I can find another one to download.
Hello, Nisha Whitney Wash. That is really loud. And I am reading We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers.
Kathy Loser. I'm reading the book, and it's called The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozaki, one of my favorite authors.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. First item on our agenda is the consent agenda items, and for those, we will be reviewing the minutes of the April 20th, 2022 board meeting, the monthly financial reports, the monthly bills for payment, personnel reports, and the 2022 board meeting calendar. Do we have a motion to approve these items? Okay. Any questions or points of discussion?
I just want to thank Gary he always puts a synopsis for each month. Where is he? And I appreciate reading. I know you've been doing it for a while now, but I just wanted to highlight, thank you for doing that.
I'm glad it's helpful.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we'll move on to Greer giving us his first Director's Monthly Report.
All right, so I'm going to highlight a few things and then answer any questions you have. We have a new streaming platform dedicated to children's video. This is called Just for Kids Access Video. Offers over 11,000 individual videos, and this is a great supplement to our Canopy Kids platform. This features PBS, Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, Wonderscape, and many other producers. Our physical collection use and meeting room use are both sort of rebounding relative to the beginning of the pandemic. So we're seeing our highest numbers since the onset of COVID back in March of 2020. Our yearbook digitization project is in the soft launch phase. So if you recall, a few months back, we talked about this when Steph Niemeyer gave an ACS presentation. We've been working on the yearbook digitization project for quite a while. We have enough of those yearbooks fully scanned and browsable and searchable that we have that website accessible under our e-library local history link. We call it a soft launch now because we still have some OCR-related work to do with these images to make them fully searchable. So we're not doing a big campaign just yet, but it is accessible. We're hoping we can do more of a full-on campaign and raise a lot of awareness about this collection maybe in a few months. But it is accessible if you go to our website and you go to local history resources. You can find the yearbooks there. So. Our Teen and Outreach Services partnered with Jackson Creek Middle School to present a VR program for students focusing on computer science and haptics in consumer-based technologies, which was very successful, and a nice little patron anecdote there that you probably saw in the report. We also have a great anecdote from a Vital patron and some great overall use statistics from Vital, which is good, also good to see as it's rebounding from the beginning of the pandemic. And this is not in the report, but I'd like to say that we're very proud of our material handlers. They have turned an 80-cart backup around in about a week to get it down to about 10 carts. And for anyone who's ever shelved carts in a library and knows that children's materials, for example, are a lot harder to shelve than everything else, will understand why that's very impressive. So we're very proud of them and grateful for the hard work they've been doing.
Are there any questions for Greer? Sorry. It's okay.
I just wanted to highlight a couple statistics, 3 statistics that I thought were very interesting from your report. The daily visits average 1,439 daily visits. The daily digital items downloaded are 2,295 per day. And the daily physical items, 3,882. This is a busy place.
It is. So in
that's
fairness, just to qualify some of those statistics, daily visits is across drive up and all entry points to all physical locations, but it's a significant number.
Yes.
Daily use statistics is not only checkouts, but also renewals, which of course are automatic for the first 2 renewals unless there's a hold. So while I wouldn't say that they're inflated numbers, it's worth keeping that in mind when you see those really big numbers. Similarly, the digital items use is because if you recall, and this is going back a few years, we talked about how can we discuss the use of digital collections in consistent terms when all of those platforms don't count use the same way. So for some things, it's a single download or single stream. For another platform, it's looking at a series of articles for a period of time. Okay. So we kind of determined what a single use would be, just so we can kind of keep track of them consistently. So with those qualifiers in mind, yes, I would agree that those are pretty significant numbers.
It's a resource, it's a community resource that's being used.
Yes.
Which is why we're all here.
Yeah.
Anything else for Greer?
I have a question.
Okay.
It's not explicitly stated, I don't know if you can hear me, it's not explicitly stated in the report, but we did have some concerns come up about issues in the workplace. Without going into detail, how's the morale? How are people feeling? And then also we've received a couple of emails in the last couple of days about maybe some community engagement. So how are we doing? Is everyone well? Yeah. And is there anything that we need to be concerned about?
No, things are going very well. We've been talking with a lot of staff who are sort of involved or aware of some of those concerns, and certainly with the managers involved in that. So there's been a lot of support, and I think I can say safely in a morale improvement over the last couple of weeks, without going into the details as to why. Some of that is related to the comment on the material handler's work, for sure. The reference to the other community engagement email that we saw is one of those sort of repeat situations with certain patrons where we have kind of a long-standing history with them and trying to communicate with them effectively, and we're going to continue to do the same thing with that individual. which is kind of a way of saying you can expect to hear more from that individual. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Clarifying question, because I'm new.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw one of the emails said that we restrict access to services for a period of a month. Can you give me more insight into how we come to that conclusion? Like, what prompts a person's restricted access to the library?
That's a great question. So this has to do with when we decide to ban a patron based on a particular behavior or set of behaviors. So it's connected to our behavior policy, and it outlines what a ban means and why we would issue a ban and what an appeal process is. So a more detailed answer to that, I'd like to talk with Brian, our building services manager, about sharing that. And this might be something that we want to talk about, as a group, and just kind of reviewing why we have policies that include potential bans based on patron behavior and how we've managed that process, over time and how we've refined it and so on.
That's great, because I
Yeah.
think it'll complement goal 3 in your strategic plan,
Yeah,
your strategic direction. So that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Okay, anything else? Okay, at this time we'll move on to old business, and Greer's going to give us an update on the Southwest branch.
So I wish I could tell you we've got really exciting construction updates, but I'm afraid it's a continuation of what we've done for the last few months, which is the foundation work, the stuff that people don't really notice unless it's not there. That includes the installation of rebar for columns and walls, the installation of concrete form work, steel embeds and anchor bolts, concrete placements for foundation walls and piers. Strasser has completed the concrete pours at the southeast and the northeast corners, so you're going to see more of a solid structure in different parts of the foundation right about now. They've also completed installation of perimeter foundation drain, and they will continue the waterproofing of basement foundation walls. They've started work for stabilizing the stormwater retention basin. They've received delivery of site utility materials. And we've had some preliminary discussions with our legacy vendor for our AMH system, that's our automatic sorter, to make sure that the product they offer that we have installed in all of our locations so far will work with the wall thickness and the sort room design specs as we have them with Matthew Architects. We're also reviewing options for a stronger and more reinforced glass wall along the south-facing wall, which is the wall that looks over the stairs and is going to have that wonderful view. We just want to make certain that that is as strong a reinforced glass wall as possible for all of the obvious reasons. It will likely result in a change order that we will bring to you in the future. We do not expect it to be a significant cost increase, but it is something we really want to take a look at. And we are still on track for the occupancy inspection to be scheduled for the first week of April of 2023, which would have our eventual grand opening at the beginning of May. So we're still on track. And we continue to hold our bi-weekly construction meetings, and they are now out at the site. Any questions about Southwest?
Okay, seeing no questions, next Greer will also give us an update on the opening day collection and some of the bids that they've received.
So we've discussed the opening day collection service for a little while now, and we brought the draft RFP to you all a couple of months back. The summary document in the packet reviews the purpose of the opening day collection service and the scope of the project as outlined in that RFP. It includes things like the approximate number of items for the collection. We asked for company background and experience in doing these kinds of things. The proposed unit price or individual item price, not only for the items purchased, but also processing, cataloging, storage, and delivery of those items, as well as additional service charges and any applicable discounts. We received 3 proposals for print services for opening day collections, one from Baker & Taylor, one from Ingram, and one from Brodart. We received 2 proposals for the non-print service, one from Midwest Tape and one from Ingram. That summary document in the packet also details what each vendor offers as part of their service, how they did or did not satisfy the requirements of the RFP itself, and the unit cost and the estimated totals. And I'll share very quickly, I did not include the actual proposals in the packet because it would have made the packet 500 plus pages long, and also because these companies didn't really send their proposals in the exact same way, so it's apples and oranges and bananas. So I thought a written summary of all of this would be a lot easier than pouring through the actual proposals. Baker and Taylor provided a very thorough proposal for print collection services, and they're a company that we've worked closely with for many years, and they have all of our ordering and processing templates. They are also proposing our standard ordering discount of up to 45% per item. Brodart also provided a thorough proposal for print collection services. They're even a little less expensive. We haven't worked with them before, and there would be a significant learning curve for both the selection process and in creating ordering and processing templates. And they are also proposing a similar discount of up to, I think it's 46% per item in some cases. Midwest Tape provided a very thorough and complete proposal for the non-print collection services. They included sample materials and project timeline templates, and by sample materials, I mean color printouts of these are going to be the labels and the covers for your DVDs and your CDs, and it'll say Southwest Branch in the following. So they gave us a physical indication of what their product would look like, which was very good to see. And they're proposing their standard discount of up to 25% per item. Ingram provided incomplete proposals for both print and non-print services, which means they did not include pricing, discounts, or anything else. They gave us summaries of the services that they would provide. So we recommend accepting the Baker and Taylor proposal for print services and Midwest Tapes proposals for non-print services. The next step would be for us to draw up service contracts or service agreements with those two vendors and then bring them to you all for signature, and then we would begin the process this summer, which is still in keeping with our timeline.
So on the agenda, it is listed as an action item, but we won't be voting on it until we actually have the proposals to vote on.
Sure.
So the vendors that you're recommending that we go with, were they just the best of the bunch, or you feel like they actually meet the needs and desires for
They
the
very
library?
much meet the needs
Okay.
and desires of the library, mostly for our standing working relationships with both of those
Great.
vendors, Baker and Taylor and Midwest. Also because they did provide the best proposals, probably because we have that good
'Cause you've
working
worked with
relationship
them.
with them.
Great.
And then the other piece is that the templates that I referenced. I mean, for our ACS staff, there's a lot that goes into ordering items online through these vendor interfaces. It's the workflow of using a selection interface. It's also those processing templates. Having to build them from scratch with another company is a whole other workload. So putting that on our staff, we start to get to the question of, okay, is it really worth paying for all of this, or should we just have our staff build the collections themselves? So for all of those reasons, yeah, we feel like
Pretty
Baker and
good.
Taylor and Midwest are the way to go.
Awesome, thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions? All right, the next item will be our new business. Our next item on the agenda is the new business, and so we have some action items. The first one will be regarding a right-of-way temporary easement from the Highway Department. As the Highway Department prepares to build the roundabout, they're asking for an easement on part of our property on the Southwest Branch temporarily to provide access while the roundabout's being built. So do we have a motion to approve this agreement? Okay, and so go ahead. Greer can probably fill you in a little bit more about that.
Sure. So we received a temporary right-of-way offer from the Monroe County Highway Department for two small pieces of our Southwest Branch property. They are referred to in the documents as parcels 27 and 27A, totaling 0.212 acres of land. This is related to the Fullerton Pike project. The Highway Department needs these for the purposes of drive construction and grading while they're working on that project. Specifically for the large roundabout that will replace the three-way stop near where our parking lot entrance is going to go to the branch once it's completed. So we've known this project is going to happen right on the heels of our Southwest Branch project. What we haven't known is the timeline. And our biggest concern was that timeline, that if we didn't have an indication as to when the Highway Department was going to start the project, they may be working while we're still working. And that would mean we would have to move dirt and supplies multiple times. We did get verbal confirmation from the Highway Department last week that they will not start this project until September. So we feel pretty safe because we're certainly not going to be working on Southwest in September.
September 23, right?
September of 2023, correct, thank you, yeah. So we had our legal team review the documents as well. They don't have any concerns about it. And because we don't feel that we have a whole lot of agency in this either, because this is a temporary easement or eminent domain kind of situation, we feel let's go ahead and sign this and move on with this.
I have a question about the condition after the work is done.
Mm-hmm.
So what becomes of that? Do they restore it to its original condition?
I don't believe they do. Kate, do you have any info on that?
Right. But the cost of reconditioning that property then would be ours? For example? I don't believe so. Okay. I think that when they're done with it, they'll return it to us and have done what they needed for the grading for the construction.
So they plant the grass?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like reseeded, retreed, whatever needed to be happening, the original condition back to us.
I would assume so. I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I would assume that they would return it to the original.
We would hope.
In those, yeah, in those little parcels, it would be grass. It's not going to be any structure or anything like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know we don't have much agency here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it'd be good to know
Yeah.
for future cost.
And we can do that before signing this because we still have time. I can't recall what the actual timeline is on the document. So we could do that and then bring it back for signature if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. And then, is Bachelor School saying anything? Do they have any concerns? Are they side-eyeing us, or are they good to go about this as well?
I don't know about this in particular, but we've worked pretty closely with Bachelor on how this is all going to lay out. There's another easement related to Duke Electrical that the school corporation does have to sign off on. So, so they're part of this. But in terms of any concerns they may have about that drive and the impact, we haven't heard any.
Okay.
No.
So are we voting, or are we just going to table the vote until?
Table.
You want, there's that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agreement with the Highway Department signify by saying aye. Opposed? Opposed, nay. I'm sorry.
I'm going to abstain here until I know, because I wanted to know more about
Okay.
the restoration.
All right. Thank you. Okay. The ayes have it. And next, we're going to talk about an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Monroe County School Corporation and RBB School Corporation regarding some first youth starter cards.
So this is
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to approve? Do you have a second? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Greer.
Okay, so this is a continuation of an existing service we've had, and I wish I could tell you for how many years. Lisa might be able to, but we've had this for a while. It's very popular. It's called the Youth Starter Card Program. It provides starter library cards for all first grade students upon their first formal visit or structured visit to the library. It allows them to check one item out. It kind of, you know, this is done without them setting up an official library card. And for those first graders who already have an official library card, they don't get a youth starter. Excuse me, they can use their actual library card. But it's a great program, and we love doing it. And this MOU, one for MCCSC and one for RBB, is simply to codify the process so we can say, yes, we do this every year. And it also is going to help us streamline the data transfer process so that it's easier for us to get students' first and last names and the requisite info for setting up those cards. So the school corporations are interested in taking this to their May and June board meetings and signing off. So we've kind of got in writing an agreement over this program that we've had almost sort of a verbal agreement on for a long time.
love this initiative. My son did this in the 1st grade. He's now going into 4th. So when I came back and started doing these board meetings, he was all over the library because he had a good experience in 1st grade.
great,
So thank
yeah.
you for that. This is great.
Yeah. Well, it's a credit to Lisa and her team because they make a big deal out of hosting these class visits. So they clearly do it very, very well.
I think we'll vote on each one separately for the different school
Okay.
corporations, since they're two different memorandums of understanding. So first, do we have all in favor of approving the MOU between the library and MCCSC, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And same thing, all those in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding between the library and Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Okay. Next on the agenda, we are going to have a presentation from JA Benefits on health insurance. This is not an action item, just an informational topic. So, and I'm sorry, I don't have your name. Oh, I'm Becky Throckmorton. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so Becky's here to present from JA's Benefits.
Oh, I'm actually just here to introduce JA Benefits.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
I spoke to you guys last month about our, teeing up our conversation about the compensation study plan and the benefit discussion. So as you may remember, pages 94 and 95 of last month's board packet had our benchmarking summary, and it ended with some additional considerations and kind of what the benchmark means to the Monroe County Public Library and our benefits. And so to continue that conversation, we have JA Benefits. So they are the library's broker. And so I will go ahead and turn it over. We have Doug Johnson and Sandy Brunson from JA. They have a PowerPoint presentation that they'll present to you guys.
Thank you, Becky. My name is Doug Johnson. I'm a partner at JA Benefits. First of all, I'd like to just publicly thank the library and the board of directors, the trustees, for all the work you do in the community. As a community member, the library is one of the treasured assets of Monroe County. And I can just, I think publicly, sometimes, especially during the last couple years, it's not been easy for any of us, and I just want to thank you again for all that you've done to be open and do everything you can for the community and keeping the library up and functioning and all the things that you do, so thank you.
I'm Sandy Brunson, and I am an account executive, and I work on Monroe County Public Library's account, so on the service side. So thank you for having us. I'm very excited to be here.
We've got a few things to just give you some highlights on tonight and provide you some background on some of the work that we do with the staff, with Kyle and Becky and the leadership team here at the library. So we're going to talk a little bit about your current benefits. We're going to basically look at a little bit of high-level data in terms of where our utilization's at, go through the timeline that we utilize for the work that we do with the library, and then talk about some market considerations, some opportunities we see there. We'll look a little bit at sort of a high-level carrier comparison with not financials tonight, but at least a high-level overview of the capabilities of the market as we see it, and then answer any questions you might have about the work that we're doing. So, Sandy, do you want to talk a little bit about benefits?
Yeah, so this slide here just kind of summarizes basically the medical plan, which we have 3 plan options currently with the medical plan. You have been with SIHO as your carrier on the medical side for 7 years now, so have a long-lasting partnership there with SIHO. We've listed here just some of the renewal history. So a lot of times when those renewals come out, they'll come out with a renewal. And then our job, and along with your leadership team here, is we work with that carrier and try to get those renewals down on your behalf. So we've got that relationship there with SIHO listed. And then we also have a very valuable benefit to your employees and members, and that's the clinic with Everside Health. So that clinic option has been in place for 11 years now. So basically what that clinic does for your members is it allows them acute care, It allows them wellness, preventative, primary care options right here in Monroe County. So that is something that's been a long-standing relationship. Also, they can get medications, some generic medications there at the clinic. If they're on a PPO plan, there's no member cost share for that. So it's a really nice benefit. And if they're on a high deductible plan, for compliance reasons, they do pay a small market fair value for those medications or the visit. But comparable to in the market, it is significantly less. So those are some of the, I guess, opportunities members have at that clinic. We have summarized some reporting that we got. Obviously, participation is something we keep a very close eye on, because the more it's utilized, the more value and ROI it is for the library. So it's something Doug and I have been watching very closely. This is something that we have seen across all of our clients, and a lot of it's due to pandemic, and that's just participation from, you can see here listed, 2019 was about 47%, 2020 was 35%, and then 33% in 2021. And I know the clinic, where they were doing telehealth visits, they were doing other options as well. So we know that we've got to kind of refocus now, get those face-to-face meetings back with your members, and really work towards educating and driving utilization there. So, Doug, do you want to speak on savings?
Yeah, essentially, when we look at the clinic participation, obviously more participation in the clinics means more savings for the health plan. The opportunity there is a very, very good benefit for employees and their families. Essentially, if you look back, they see opportunities. When we looked at the reporting, there's some potential savings there that we've not taken advantage of yet. They do estimate that we could potentially save about $89,000 with members who have chronic conditions, if those could be managed a little bit better in the clinic operation than they are on their own today. So that's an opportunity for members to participate there, and if we can encourage that participation, there is some opportunities for some additional savings. Over the life of the clinic, there's been approximately $115,000 in member out-of-pocket savings. And what I mean by that is when your employees go, the difference between a member having to pay out-of-pocket cost for the clinic utilization and on the HSA plans, the difference between what the clinic market value cost is and the actual retail cost of a visit or services there. Approximate savings is about $115,000. That amounts to a little over $10,000 of value for your members and reduced out-of-pocket costs for employees that use that particular benefit. In 2021, the clinic investment by the library was about $58,000. And the visit value alone, if you compare the value of retail visits and the cost of those, was nearly break even in 2021, which at 33%, obviously we need to get our participation back up, and that is recovering from COVID as we see across the marketplace. But it's been slow, and it's been slower than we like. But again, that's one of the things we want to revisit, and we've got some ideas and some opportunities we think that we can discuss with leadership to potentially enhance that. It also doesn't take into account other services that were avoided or emergency room visits that were avoided by having access to the clinic. Those are other things. Obviously, if you can get done in a primary care setting versus an emergency room setting, it's a much less expensive visit. And so this analysis did not take into account that savings.
I won't spend a ton of time on this slide, but we thought it was also beneficial for you to see who are other key partners when we talk about the benefit plan. Obviously, medical is a big one, but also we have Paramount HRI does the dental and the vision plans here at the library. One American AUL does the life and disability. And then we have Allstate with the accident, critical illness, and cancer plans. And then we have Task that we partner on the COBRA and the Flex side. And this is something a couple years ago we sent out to market, something we keep a close eye on if there's a way to save members and the library money. That's something we want to bring to leadership to look at.
We also put together, again, some utilization statistics, and the utilization on the left-hand side represents essentially the number of visits. So those are the highest ranking providers by utilization, by number of visits or services there. IU Health, Southern Indiana Physicians is our #1 provider. IU Health Bloomington, no surprise, is our #1 provider for the hospital. Indiana Wellness, Sierra Imaging, IU Health in Indianapolis. Those are the top, basically, 5 providers in terms of a member utilization. And about 53% of all paid claims are being utilized by these providers. On the right-hand side, we did the same thing, but we listed it by total paid claim dollars. The leading providers there, IU Health Indy, a lot of tertiary care for higher level services happens in Indianapolis, and so a lot of the care does go there, which is why that paid number is very high for them. IU Health Bloomington, Optum Healthcare Solutions, Southern Indiana ENT, and IU Health Southern Indiana Physicians in terms of total paid claims. And about 84% of all plan paid dollars are going to these top providers. Talk about timeline.
Sure. So this timeline is very important as we work through strategy with your team here at the library. It's something we work very closely and we're accountable to, and that's making sure when we look at things like what's the timing on going to market, getting the information collected that we need to go, when do we expect the renewal to come out from SciHo. We have renewal meetings that we do. We also then work with the board, of course, and work on those final approvals. And then a lot of work is done behind the scenes with your team here to do open enrollment. So when we look at our timeline, we really want to start kind of looking in that August, September timeframe of when are we going to go to market, who are we going to go to market with. There's lots of things to consider when we're talking about going to market with your leadership team. Obviously, there's a financial piece to that. There's a culture, network access. We want to make sure that your members have access to the right network. Disruption, like if we have to change plan design or we have to do something like that. So those are all things that we want to make sure when we go to market, we're going to the right companies, and you'll see here in the next slide who are the big players that make sense. We always get the SciHo renewal around that October 1 timeframe. So when we talk about going to market, a group your size, how many members that you have enrolled on your plan, sometimes dictates how much information we have access to, okay? So it's a little bit in the weeds, but it helps you guys understand that a group that's 50 to 100, we can only get claims information to go to market twice a year. So we want to be very strategic on when we pull that information and go to market with it. So that's something that we take, and they want to see the renewal, of course. So sometimes that really tightens our timeline a little bit. The target, like I said, the target date's October 1. We usually do the renewal meetings, board meetings in those October timeframe, and then we launch open enrollment November. So that's kind of the timeline that we really try to stick to.
Yeah, other things, again, for consideration, and Sandy covered a lot of this, but the timing is really tight in terms of being able to get claim data because the carriers for basically proposing to be a carrier for you in 2023 want typically 10 months of claim data. And with an October 1st timeline, that's really tough to gather. So we typically gather claims through the end of August, and then we'll update the claims with the carriers that are looking for consideration through that September month, and then come back out and work with the leadership team to really establish sort of where we want to go with that. A couple things that we have done, we've really worked hard in the past several years, and we've marketed this to several different carriers. We had one carrier tell us this year that they were like, hey, don't send it to us this time. You've sent it to us the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you've not given us an opportunity at it. And so, you have to be a little strategic, as Sandy said, about how we do it. But again, depending on how our renewal goes and what we see there, we obviously will send that to the market and get you the best options that are available for us. Again, we work hard with the leadership team to really make sure that we exhaust all opportunities that are out there for and on behalf of the employees and for the library.
So I said earlier kind of who are the main players in this area. And so when we go to market, your current carrier being SciHo, and we've noted it throughout the slides, but SciHo has been a great partner for the library. We talk about reporting, we talk about some of that claims information, and SciHo has been very flexible in giving that information whenever the leadership team needs it, or your HR team to look at that. So that's been, and you can kind of see we've just outlined kind of pros and cons, and maybe not cons, but more challenges. I don't really see them as cons, but just things from, you know, what we see too. We work in this every day, so what do we hear from your members or from other clients as well? So you have a long-term relationship with SciHo. Obviously, if you continue your relationship with SciHo, it's really no to minimal member disruption from that standpoint. The service team, and I think I can speak on behalf of your HR team, they're very responsive and very timely in their service, and that's important when your members are going and have claims issues or things like that. We want to make sure that the service team is taking care of them. Flexible reporting, and then right now there's an Encore national network. We talk about network, we talk about who are they contracted with. I would say the biggest challenge with SciHo that we hear is they don't have a lot of member tools and resources. So when you compare to an Anthem or United Healthcare, the national companies, they have apps, right? They have ways you can cost estimate, you can do things like that. SciHo just doesn't quite have those yet. I think they're working on it, but probably a little bit slower to market than what we've seen at the national level with the Anthems and the United Healthcares. So then we see some of the pros. Obviously, those fall, member tools and resources falls as a pro when we talk about Anthem and United Healthcare. Obviously, you have broad network access with them. So you've got that Anthem network, that United Healthcare network, large national network. Provider discounts, they are deeper discounts, if you will. The contracts have a lot of deeper discounts on the contract level with Anthem and United Healthcare typically. So. Challenges, I would say, with those two, Anthem and United Healthcare, can be flexibility on claims. So when I talk about only get claims 2 times a year, Anthem and United Healthcare hold pretty true to that. So they're like, no, when's the last time we pulled those claims? So they're going to hold true to that Bulletin 174. And service response times, sometimes because you have more layers, if you will, sometimes it takes longer to get back to your HR team or to get back to your member who might have a service issue. So we do see some challenges there sometimes. The last one is IU Health. And if it's okay, Doug, I'm going to let you talk about IU Health. I've outlined some of it, but I think you'll do a good job on that one.
Okay. Thanks, Sandy. We did sort of put IU Health, obviously, out on one side and wanted to talk about that because if you remember back to the slide we looked at earlier, we use predominantly a lot of IU Health providers. So, you know, obviously their plans are important to us, their providers are important to us and to your members. And so from that standpoint, they are obviously a logical fit. We have clients in Columbus and clients in Seymour. That I-65 corridor is barren in terms of IU Health providers. They don't have a good provider group there. On I-37, I-69, we've got a plethora of IU providers, so they've got really good access. And they do offer some things from a financial perspective that can be attractive for you. They're offering, with some caveats, a 2-year rate guarantee up front with some biometric reporting requirements. So it would mean that at least half of your members have to go through biometric testing, which is the finger stick and the basic biometric workup. But if half your members do that, they will honor a 2-year rate guarantee for the health plan. So again, they make it financially attractive, but there are a couple qualifiers for that. You know, additionally, on the pro side, you know, they've got a pretty good service team. They've got a very accurate billing, so we don't have any issues there. But to get the best pricing from IU Health, it would require us to narrow the network. And what I mean by that is Anthem and United are these national broad networks. And you have almost 100%, 99% of all doctors and hospitals are typically in those networks. With IU Health, they have broad networks like that, but the pricing that you receive for your premiums from those broad networks with IU Health are sometimes on par with Anthem and United, but again, they're not quite as competitive. But what they have done is if you use a select group, a much narrow select group of IU providers, then they will give you better pricing. So it's one of those things. They're doing it with a purpose, but it also can benefit your members. And again, many of our members are already using IU Health. It would create some network disruption for your membership. So when Sandy talks about culture, we want to make sure that we don't disrupt what you've got going on and all the goodwill you have between the benefits and your employees. So that's something we'll obviously look at. We'll be challenged to make sure that if we consider something like that, we'll want to make sure that we understand what we're getting, and we want to make sure that we help the leadership team and the membership understand the caveats and all the pieces of the puzzle that really are somewhat of a bit of a challenge from going to that kind of a program. They also are a little lacking on the member tools and resources, much more like SciHo. They're younger in status in terms of the health plan side of things, even though IU Health providers have been here for years. The health plan itself is about 5 or 6 years old. So again, much younger organization, not as well developed, not as well funded in terms of the national scope and breadth of what they do from the insurance market. So again, we just wanted to give you a sort of a broad brush, if you will, goods and bads, pros and challenges, if you will, from the different providers, and look to let you a little bit behind the scenes in terms of the things that we look at and the opportunities that we see there for you to consider. On a broad scale, I will tell you that even Anthem and United are starting to look at much more narrow networks. So that is a trend in the marketplace we see. SciHo, again, is a nice broad network, much like Anthem, much like United today. But again, the carriers are starting to basically narrow these networks down to ask for deeper discounts with providers so that they can bring lower premiums to your members. And that's the way that they're doing that. And again, it's not all bad, but it can create some challenges for your membership. So we just want to be cautious about that, and we want to make sure we take a good hard look and understand what we're looking at and make sure that your members, if that's considered, understand that piece of the puzzle as well. So we've talked a lot, and I apologize. We've run through a lot of things and provided you a lot of data, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you have an idea of how, you say that they're narrowing the focus or narrowing the group or whatever the terminology used, do you see in your research and what you've been studying that the pandemic and COVID is going to really come back to bite the people who want services in terms of going to say, okay, we paid for all this, we did all this, now you guys are going to have to pay more?
I don't look at it that way, but let me put it to you and explain it a little bit differently. In 2020, during the pandemic, a majority of our clients, both large and small, obviously didn't have nearly as many claims in 2020 as they did in 2019.
So that savings ideally should be passed on to the users.
It definitely should.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that's believe me, we're on the same page on this one. So what has happened though, and what we did see in 2021, and what we actually had fears about this, was that in 2021, especially as we got into the year in 2021, claims came back with a vengeance. And so it's sort of what you call a hockey stick approach. Things go down, then all of a sudden they rebound, and they rebound back significantly. We have some large national accounts with Anthem, and Anthem is telling us on some of those large national accounts, their trend, the increase they're seeing year over year in claims, is running 13 to 15%. And so what happened during the pandemic, and we're still vetting the theory behind this, but what we feared is deferred care people who didn't get those preventive exams, who didn't, get all the preventive tests, the mammographies, the colonoscopies, all those kinds of things. That deferred care is now coming back to us in more severe cancer cases. We've got heart care that was put off and deferred. And, it's very, very unfortunate, but now we're starting to see that that's all coming back.
And that equates to the insurance companies are saying, since we've had all these claims, do we now need to increase premium rates?
They have to increase premium rates.
They choose to increase premium rates, I'll say that. I'm sorry. I just think, I have a real problem, and I know we live in a society where it's a marketplace for insurance, and the terms retail, marketplace, all the things that are designed to educate us about the benefits that we're giving our employees, it just grates against my nerves, because it's like healthcare, I think, is a right, and to put it into those terms really bothers me, because I know what's going to happen, because we've used so much of it. Things are getting worse for people who didn't have the preventative care. They're going to sock people with a big, high increase, and it just seems wrong. I'm just stating that, my opinion. It's too bad. It's just too bad.
I have a question for you. The presentation said that it's not a good idea to keep going back to market every year. So why do we do it? And then what do you recommend? Like, what's the wait time that we should do? Should it be every 3 years, every 5 years?
It's a great question. I think there's a balance there. Obviously, when we see an increase, should it come this year, that is above what we see from a normal trend rate, and normal trend that we've seen over the last several years has been in the mid-single digits, 5 to 7%. So that kind of a trend increase is probably acceptable in terms of what you were referencing, in terms of the claims cost going up year over year. That probably is worthy of that increase. I think what we see is all of a sudden, if we get a larger increase than that, then yes, we probably will be needing to go to the market and look at that very closely and look at the opportunities for you. I think we just wanted to give you today that broad overview of what the market looks like for us and for your employees. And then obviously we'll work with leadership to determine, okay, we've got to go to market, and we've got to go to all the carriers out there, and maybe even look at other options that may be out there for us and for the employees if the situation warrants that from an increase standpoint.
Does SciHo provide access to mental health providers?
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, one of the things that we did, and I believe, was it 2021, Sandy? Yes. We actually enhanced the employee assistance program and increased the access for employees to use that program and beef that up a little bit in terms of the number of additional visits. And that program is through One America and a program there, but we went basically straight to their employee assistance provider and have a direct contract with them that helps us and provide additional support in those terms, because that is the other piece of the puzzle. And I commend you for recognizing that. The mental health side of COVID, we continue to see, again, one of those deferred care pieces that we're going to be paying for this for years to come in terms of the effects on members that we have still no idea the long-term effects. So again, we've addressed that with the mental and nervous piece through the EAP program, and again, we'll continue to monitor that.
I'm glad you mentioned those consequences, because we've been in this pandemic, and I know we keep saying the end of it, but I don't really know if we're at the end, right? And the social isolation part is critical, but now we're coming back into workplaces where we're significantly understaffed, responsibilities are increasing, capacity is limited for a number of reasons, right? And wages haven't necessarily increased. So I see mental health being a significant, probably a long-term consequence coming out of, or a lack of mental health or wellness coming out of COVID. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
For Sandy or Doug? Okay, well, we'd like to thank both of you for taking the time tonight to give us this wonderful presentation and giving us some things to think about as we move forward into October and the fall, looking at what direction we want to go.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'll just say very quickly, to kind of refer back to the timeline or the arc of this overall discussion. We've kind of started our larger compensation discussion by looking at benefits. And next month, we're going to be talking about a compensation philosophy. We'll bring a draft, and then it'll be a point of discussion for all of us to maybe think about how compensation factors into a strategy for what kind of employer we really want to be long term. So we're looking forward to having that conversation with you all next month. And then that compensation philosophy will inform, in a lot of ways, the RFP we're going to draw up for bringing a consultant in to do the compensation study for the second part of this year. So those are the next two steps.
A department presentation from Children's Services. So we have Lisa Champelli here to tell us all about summer reading and all the other fun things going on in the Children's Department.
Thank you. Just to kind of follow up on the health insurance presentation, May is Mental Health Month. And we have a featured topic displays in the Children's Department and mental health informational books and even stories that touch on that topic are displayed. And as I was scanning some books to possibly add to that collection, came across a young adult title that just to share what I've been reading recently. It's called Heads Up, Changing Minds on Mental Illness, and it was a real nice overview of the, just range of issues that teens in particular may encounter. Just nice kind of summary of helping kids understand. So let me just get a few things out here and begin by saying thank you for inviting me to speak with you tonight about Children's Services. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging the wonderful group of talented individuals who create the welcoming presence and special experiences for visitors to the Children's Department in the downtown location. Our core team includes information assistants Lily Jennis, senior information assistants Claire Clark, Paul Duzinski, Tressa Rao, Krista Souter, and Kathy Starks, along with librarians Ellen Arnholter, Amy Caswell, Kate Dunneman, and Ginny Hostler. These caring, thoughtful individuals provide essential reference and readers advisory services to children at the help desk in our department. They plan and present a variety of programs ranging from sensory play for toddlers to preschool math and science, homeschool art lab to tween tech. And since this time last year, we've scaled back make and take activities and virtual story times to present more in-person programming and support family requests to provide engaging social activities where children can interact with other children, all with an eye toward fulfilling MCPL's strategic goals. And I need to give my colleagues credit for remaining flexible and continuing to adapt to evolving pandemic conditions. Their creative energies and resilience has sustained library story times, personalized recommendations, and our interactive play spaces for children ages birth to 12, among the variety of other programming and services that we provide for children and their caregivers. I also need to acknowledge the friends of the library who provide the funding to make these important programs and gathering spaces available for free to our community members. Whoops, back up here. I always find it challenging in a way to limit what I talk about with these board presentations. Each program and service really has its own unique value and benefit to patrons. But this evening, I'd like to focus on two primary ways that we invite children to learn about and use the library in collaboration with our school partners. First, by facilitating field trip visits to the library, and second, by issuing library cards to students. When the Friends of the Library began planning the special exhibit of artwork by Black artists who had received the Coretta Scott King Illustrator Award, we knew we wanted to invite students not only to view the art, but to contribute their own art and ideas to the exhibit. To help us learn how we could involve students in ways that would be meaningful for them and relevant to the school curriculum, we met with Dr. Deborah Prenkert, Director of Elementary Education for Monroe County Community School Corporation, and Rafi Hassan, MCCSE's Equity and Inclusion Coordinator. We reviewed with them some of the books featured in the exhibit, many of which were best suited to upper elementary students. And we decided to invite sixth grade students to visit for a class trip to see the exhibit, as well as to tour the teen space, since sixth graders, if they weren't already 12, they soon would be, and eligible for those teen space activities. The picture books featured in the exhibit presented a beautiful way to help students and teachers gain understanding for how books function as windows and mirrors, and to inform students about our cultural landscape through the lens of Black illustrators. Every K-6 school in Monroe County, even outside of MCCSE and RBB, received a donation of 3 books featured in the exhibit: My People, with photographs by Charles Smith, Beautiful Blackbird by Ashley Bryan, and Goin' Someplace Special, illustrated by Jerry Pinkney, and guided by the expertise of Kelly Jordan, the K-12 Experiences Manager for the IU Eskenazi Museum of Art. We included opportunities for young people to see themselves as artists and storytellers. We invited children to draw portraits of themselves or someone in their family, to design their own bird, to create their own quilt square or collage, and to reflect on the concept of belonging, one of the themes that was conveyed in several of the picture books. It was serendipitous that Kelly picked up on this theme of belonging, because this is something that we talk about with kids when we explain to them that the public library is something that belongs to everyone in our community. But it's one thing to be told that something belongs to you, or even to know it, and it's another thing to feel that you belong to someone or something or somewhere. So how do we help kids feel that they belong here? We know many children are dependent on the adults in their lives to help them get to the public library, so when a visit can be facilitated as part of a school learning experience, it gives some kids that first look at what the public library can offer them and plants the idea that they are welcome and wanted here, that there are things here especially for them. And while we wish we could have had more schools visit as a chance to see the exhibit and the teen space, who knew that pandemic conditions would continue into 2022, we did end up having 2 classes from the project school, 3 classes from Templeton, and 2 from Fairview have a chance to tour the teen space and see the exhibit and participate in the activities there. For some children, it was their first time visiting the library, and we heard from a couple of teachers that their students made return visits to the library afterward. The teen space was especially impressive for a lot of the 6th graders. Giving children a library card is another way that we can help issue an invitation of sorts to use the library and to help kids learn how to access library resources. We started providing e-access cards to every student in both public school districts in the fall of 2016 after one of the school librarians at the time, Jamie, contacted us seeking a way to provide her middle school students with access to the library's collection of ebooks to help meet demand for popular reading material. Now, an e-access card only permits borrowing of digital materials. It cannot be used to borrow print books or place a hold on any physical items. And because it is not associated with a particular individual, it can be a convenient way to share library barcodes with children at their school location. And then schools can easily choose if they want to keep the e-access cards at the school site for sharing with students as needed, or if they want to give each student their own card to keep and use over and over again. So for the last couple of years, we have distributed e-access cards to all the schools in our county for children in grades K through 8. Each high school also receives a couple classroom sets for sharing as needed. And these did prove especially useful in the height of the pandemic when schools shifted to online learning and even after schools reopened, when school libraries had to limit in-person borrowing of physical materials. There were a couple times that I got requests from teachers or school librarians for more e-access cards, and when we weren't able to go in person and distribute them, I would take photos of the cards and email them to them so that they could share, at least have a way to share barcodes on. So they did come in especially handy during that time period. But we currently see the most use of e-access cards among upper elementary grades and in the junior high schools, especially when there is a librarian at the school who is familiar with MCPL's e-library resources and has the time to teach students how to use the e-access card to borrow them. Middle school librarians continue to let us know how useful the e-access cards are for enabling students to easily borrow ebooks from our downloadable collections. The cards also enable students to easily connect with authoritative information sources such as World Book Online and Credo and Culturegrams. As we discussed a little bit earlier, we also have worked in collaboration with our schools to provide a library card to every first grade student at MCCSE and kindergarten students at RBB who visited the library as part of an annual field trip. And to give a little bit more background information, those youth starter cards, we actually, I think the first time we distributed those or gave those out to the schools was in 2015. And we experimented with giving a youth starter card to every student in MCCSE and RBB, and that was thousands of cards at the K through high school level. And it took a long time, even with the data transfer support from the schools, it took a long time to create all those cards, and it just was more than we could manage. So we focus now on creating the youth starter cards for first grade students and kind of pair it with that field trip opportunity to visit the library, which we have had to suspend the last couple of years. But with MCCSE support this year, we are in the process now of distributing youth starter cards to first grade students as we visit first grade students in their schools and invite them to participate in summer reading. So it was kind of a nice bridge back to being able to meet with students and connect them and make that invitation to take part in the summer reading game. So each first grade student receives a library card to take home, a bookmark, a letter with information about the card and upcoming activities at the library so that their grown-up at home can also learn about what's happening at the library. And this handout includes a listing of Bookmobile stops by school locations, and we emphasize that students can use their library cards on the Bookmobile as well as at the downtown and Ellettsville libraries. And since we've started giving these cards out in the last 2 weeks, we've already seen a number of students come into the library with their cards. So we really have concrete evidence that receiving a library card can serve as an intriguing invitation and help inspire caregivers to bring their children to the library. So we are, thank you for approving that memorandum of understanding. We're moving forward then with inviting MCCSE and RBB to have their boards adopt the MOUs, and RBB is looking to switch to providing them to first grade students and do a field trip for first grade students this year instead of they'd had a tradition of kindergarten students. So we're in the process now of trying to figure out what those field trips would look like next year. Again, trying to anticipate what conditions are going to be like and how that'll all work out. Because we want to encourage our beginner readers to use the library and build their reading muscles. And building reading muscles is certainly what the summer reading game is all about, and this year we have oceans of possibilities to help kids do just that. We're excited to bring back our beloved game boards this year in a format that we have used successfully for years pre-pandemic. Now, why in this digital age are we going back to paper, especially after using an online program for the last 2 years? And there's a couple of reasons for this, in addition to requests from families to bring the paper game boards back. The paper game boards provide a low barrier way to get kids started in the summer reading game. We often have camp groups such as Kid City, Boys and Girls Club bring in as many as 20 to 25 kids at one time. Giving out the paper game boards is a lot faster and easier than trying to log everybody onto a computer to get started. But even more importantly, the paper game boards help us engage with preschoolers and other young children who benefit from having something tangible to use. We tell them that this guide is theirs, it belongs to them, they can use it to play the game, it provides them with something really visible and tangible, concrete evidence of ownership of a way of participating in the program. But I think another really important value of the paper game board is that you can write on it. And we ask children to put their names on the front, and learning to write your name is a kindergarten readiness skill. And our game is designed to help children write down answers to questions that are posed in other elements of the game. They can also earn a point for submitting a kid's review of a book that they've read, and there's a place in the game board where they can write that review as well as submit it online. And there's also on the inside graphic they can color in and decorate and design the game board, and really helps make each child feel, that this is their unique way of participating in summer reading. So I think I have time to share our short summer reading video produced by our talented visual marketing specialist, Aubrey Dunnick, in collaboration with the children's librarians and some friends of the library, or library friends. I don't know if they're actually friends of the library and our nonprofit organization, but they are library friends. And I am sure you will enjoy this. We have been really reading up on our ocean puns.
Well, hello there! Now that I've officially arrived, let's get started, shall we?
Hi! You're acting funny. Yeah, what's up?
Well, I'm getting ready to celebrate summer reading at the library.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Wait, let me try. I think reading is totally awesome. Oh, how about that one? How do you make an octopus laugh?
Oh, I don't know. How?
With tentacles. I get it. That's hilarious. I never knew you were such a clownfish. So, how are you going to celebrate summer reading?
Well, that's the fantastic part. The library lets you earn points in so many different ways.
Yeah? Like what?
Well, you can earn points by completing a weekly challenge, or by attending a library event, or by exploring new things.
And you can also earn points by reading books. Oh, yeah. I don't know what to read. Like, can I read this book?
Oh, yeah. You can read any book or listen to any book that floats your boat to earn those points. It's understandable if you're having trouble finding a good book because there's an ocean of possibilities. But remember, you can always ask a library staff person to help you find the perfect book.
That's cool. My family and I don't normally go to the downtown branch or the Allenstown branch. We use the Bookmobile. Can we still play?
Oh yeah, don't worry. You can sign up on the Bookmobile and even collect your prizes there too.
Prizes?
Yeah, that's right. As you read books, you'll earn cool prizes like a bookmark, a fishy friend, a coupon for a free treat, and even a book for your to keep.
That's so cool. When can we sign up?
You can sign up starting May 23rd and play all the way through July 31st.
Whoa. Wait, my sister's a teenager. Can they play?
Oh yeah, they can! The summer reading game is for everyone! Adults, teens, children, even babies.
Oh, that's totally awesome.
Oh, I see what you did there. Glad you're on board.
Thanks. We have a lot of fun, and credit goes to children's librarians for drafting the script and Aubrey's really great editing work. So thank you. Any questions that I might be able to help answer?
I'm glad to see that you've kind of gone back to the paper. I think that was, I like that.
Yes, it has a lot of advantages. Yeah, and we had a lot of family. We had one family, I think, where maybe the parent remembered using it as a kid, and she was in tears when she heard we were going to bring it back. So it's beloved.
Lisa, I was wondering, going back to the e-access cards.
Yeah.
I know RBB right now doesn't employ any professional librarians in the elementary and the junior high levels.
Yeah.
And so with a lot of new teachers coming on board next year, is there a possibility of creating some sort of reference video or something that teachers could click on to learn themselves? I know being a library person, I kind of know, I share it with my class, but I know there's a lot of teachers who may not. You know, I know Stephanie Holman sometimes would come in and give a one-time presentation, and then, you know, it's like, for that day, it's like, well, I got it, and then the next day, it's gone out of your head. So something they could refer back to in order to introduce it to their students and use them in their classrooms.
Yeah. We have on the eAccess for Schools webpage on our site an old video that we really need to update since there's been some new e-library resources added since the time, and we may be looking at explaining some things in different ways. We're also exploring some different options for how children can access the ebook collections. We've been talking, there's a new app that Overdrive offers, or maybe it's not so new. I think we learned about it right as the pandemic was hitting, but it's designed to help kids be able to focus their search on juvenile materials. So it'll help make it easier, I think, for the younger kids especially to find materials that are targeted at their, you know, age and interest range. So definitely having that kind of informational, this is how it works, these are some of the things that you can use with the e-access card, and putting that in a video format that is something that people can hopefully we'll have a staff member be able to introduce and, you know, help explain, but have as a reference source for ongoing learning, I think would be very beneficial.
That'd be great. Yeah, if the link could, when that's created, be sent out to the principals, so that way they can forward it on to the staff, so we have those right there. That helps us kind of keep it in our brains a little longer.
Right. I know what comes into your inbox is often going to get priority over what just might be out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Continuing it, because as that librarian and a teacher and administrator in our school corporation, just how invaluable it is for our teachers to have access to those things for the students in the school, and the students to be able to connect with the library outside of their day who can't make it here. You had mentioned, you know, the students who've already come in for the first time or came as sixth graders and said they, you know, they were really impressed, but they hadn't been. And it's just a great way to reach out into the community and allow them to access those resources. So thank you for continuing that.
Thank you. And I should acknowledge Kathy also was integral to helping, you know, discuss some of the best ways to try to make this work as a school collaboration. So
Really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are any of these materials printed in languages other than English?
No. That is something that we struggle with on, with a lot of our materials to help people learn how to use the library. When I was at Summit talking with the first graders about summer reading, they have the Spanish language learning program at that school. And the librarian there was asking if we could have the bookmarks and other information that is that invitation to take part in summer reading printed in Spanish. And that's something that, we just, I don't think, do enough of. We don't currently have a Spanish speaker. We have the partnership with El Centro, but that's a big ask to do that kind of translation. So that's something that I think, we're looking at how can we do more of that.
I will say I love the diversity represented in the images and the video, all of the things. I think a critical piece would be figuring out this language component, and not just for Spanish, but I think about that board right there and how fun it would be to have that board in a language perhaps that is easier for me to understand and navigate, or is written in a language where I read most of my books, right? So that would be an opportunity. And then also just knowing in education, our dual language learners, they struggle sometimes when being forced to assimilate to speaking English. So we could figure out how to get some of those multilingual pieces.
Yes.
I think will be perfect.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
There's certainly nothing that makes you feel welcome or that you belong somewhere when the materials are in your native language. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to you and your team for all the great, wonderful work that you all do. Before we get to public comment, I just wanted to make a quick board comment. I distributed out an email that Jamie had sent to me about just to make you aware of a meeting that's going to take place next Wednesday about some sidewalk routes around Bachelor and the South Rogers walkway, which is going to be near the new Southwest branch. So if you're available, they're asking for people to attend and get some information on that. So that was what the paper that I handed out was about. It is now time for public comment. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address the board? If so, step up to the podium and state your name and what you are here to talk about. Seeing none. Oh, do we have anyone on Zoom? Okay. Okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn? Sure, okay.
Do we have a protocol, I'm sure we do, but I don't know it, for mass shootings at the library? Like, how are we educating our visitors on the process for it, our board on the process for it? Like, what are we supposed to be doing?
That's a great question. I can get more information on that. We don't
Okay.
have something that we routinely train staff or discuss in terms of protocols, say the way we do tornadoes or other emergencies. But it is something that a number of us have talked about, obviously, over the years and certainly most recently. So that's a great question. Let me come back to you all with some information on that.
Thank you. I would
Yeah.
really appreciate that, especially in light of what just happened in
Yeah.
Buffalo, New York, right? I think
Yeah.
about sitting down here in this lovely board meeting, but I have a son who's upstairs who would not know what to do
Right.
if that were to happen. And I'm not confident that the staff that are keeping eyes on my 9-year-old
Mhm.
would know what to do with him. Okay, so that would be
Yeah.
really helpful if we can have that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay. Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.